great to be here. You may be seated. I'm so honored to be here with you today, and it's a great, great day to be alive in Jesus and to have Him as our Lord, as our Savior, as our blessed Redeemer. And I just want to just commend who you are as a church and the incredible leadership of Pastor Rick Warren. He's a visionary leader. And I want you to know what you mean to us, because in just 3 weeks from now, in my church in Atlanta, we're going to be launching Celebrate Recovery. And we're so excited about that. So thank you for laying the groundwork for all of that and for the training. And we're indebted to you guys. I mean, Pastor Steve Gladden from here came and helped us in the initiation of our small groups in our church. And so you don't really realize how many places around the globe that Saddleback blesses. Let me say this to you. Men of genius are admired. Men of wealth are envied. Men of power are feared. But men of character are trusted. And I just want to commend you because you sit under trusted leadership. And Pastor Rick Warren and Kay Warren and all of the incredible pastors at all of the various campuses and all of those that lead ministries around here, you're in a safe place. This is a safe place. It just feels like home. It really does. When I'm just telling you, it really does. When I met Pastor Kay a couple of weeks ago when I was here, and I discovered that she has an affinity for words just like I do. I'm a philologist or etymologist, and so we just connected in just a wonderful, wonderful way. I just bonded, you know. But I do promise that I didn't come to suppite you with a bunch of mellifluous, grandiloquent sesquipedalia and elocution today. I came to talk really, really plainly to you here at Saddleback today. I really did. I didn't come to lose anybody in deep water. And I'm so glad my wife is here with me. She's the mother of my 5 children. She's the only woman that I've ever known. We're celebrating our 33rd year of marriage now. It's a wonderful joy. It's always fun to have somebody with whom you can do life that you love and appreciate and enjoy, you know, the good times, the bad times. And, you know, I just almost feel like I live in a fairy tale kind of a world sometimes, because I can count the times on one hand that we've had what I would call a vigorous exchange of dissenting ideas. But we've had just a fascinating time together, and it's just great to be here at Saddleback, here in Orange County. I thought that it was going to be a little cooler. It was 60-something degrees when I left Atlanta. And then I stepped off the plane in Orange County at 102. And I was just wondering, I mean, maybe global warming is true. I mean, that was wow. But I'm so glad to be here. I love the warmth of your hearts, the warmth of your spirits. What an incredible place, a powerful, wonderful, life-changing, efficacious ministry of the Lord Jesus Christ. It's just great to be here with you and to have an opportunity to share. Listen, I grew up in the hair care business. My father started our business in 1947. This is our 70th anniversary this year. And so we studied. My oldest brother's a chemist and has developed all of our products for our company. And we specialize to a large degree in male pattern baldness. And we've discovered that men who bald, starting from the front of their heads, going backwards, those that bald like here going back, they're great thinkers. Great thinkers. And then those that bald starting in the middle of the hair, and then it starts spreading this way, those men are sexy. And then the ones that bald, you know, from the front and the middle, spreading this way to where you get the cul-de-sac. Those are men who think that they are sexy. But it's a wonderful, wonderful joy. You know, I'm always amazed at the incredible diversity that we have between men and women. You know how women will wake up in the morning and a woman will say, I don't have anything to wear. She means one thing when she says that. And when a man says, I don't have anything to wear, he means something totally different. When a woman says, I don't have anything to wear, she means I don't have anything new to wear. But when a man says, I don't have anything to wear, he means I don't have anything clean to wear. It's just a total difference in how men and women are. But I'm just glad that we are able to be here and to worship God in the beauty of holiness and to have a freedom in our spirits and be spiritual and not be religious. I'm glad that we can come to church and laugh and have joy, even amid trials. Now sometimes, if my wife might get upset with me over something, sometimes I'll just do something to make her laugh. You will be surprised what an incredible medicine just laughter is. The scriptures teaches that in the Old Testament, that laughter does good like a medicine. And I know some people who could use a good dose. So I tell you today, really in all honesty, I intend to be like a miniskirt today, short enough to be interesting, but long enough to cover the subject matter. But it's just so great to be here with you today. I'm just honored. And I'm going to talk for just a few moments from this scripture here, Romans chapter 8 and verse 28. A very familiar passage of scripture that simply says, and we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. All things work together for the good of those who love God. I just want to talk all for good. It's so interesting how God works things for our good. He does. He works all things for our good. Here's the first point I want you to realize is that some situations are not a trial of your faith, but of your trust. Some situations that you will go through, they are not a trial of your faith, but it's a trial of your trust. Faith is being able to see what God already wills for you. You know where you're going when you have the faith, because faith has hope as a goal setter. You know what you're going after. And you see, the Word of God reveals to us the will of God. The Word reveals God's will. So we know when we are going after something by faith exactly what it is. But when you're trusting God, you don't exactly know where He's leading you. When things happen that are unexpected in your life, if you get sick and you didn't see it coming, when somebody close to you dies and you never saw that coming, when you have trouble in a business with a family member and you never saw that coming, never thought in 1,000 years that this would happen to me. This is where we have to then trust God. When you cannot trace God's hand, you have to learn to trust His heart. We trust Him. We have to trust Him. And it's during the times that you are trusting God, that's the time that you don't just rest on your faith. Your trust has to be in what you know by faith. It is not just your faith alone, because this is not a trial of your faith. It becomes a trial of your trust. There are some things that will hit you and stun your life, and you will wonder, God, I didn't see that coming. Now let me just tell you this. You know that God is omniscient. Nothing ever surprises God. There can't be a trouble that happens in Houston and then God says, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. My God, where did that storm come from? I didn't see that. I forgot to shield my people. No, God knows everything. God knows everything. And right in the midst of God knowing everything, He wants us who know Him to trust Him that He's got a plan, even when it looks like this is not going to turn out good. This is not good. When you see your home flooding, this is not good. If you see something going up in flames, this is not good. You see divorce papers being filed, this is not good. And so we have to trust him even when we cannot trace his hands. We don't understand what God is doing. That's when we learn to trust him. And when you're in that place, now it's not based on your believing. It's something that you have to know. You have to know. You have to know. Before you get in a storm, you got to know that God is good. There are certain things that you have to know. You have to know that God is with you. Even when you don't feel that he's with you, you have to know that God is with you, that he will never leave you nor forsake you. You have to know that God is for you. God is not your enemy. He's not my enemy. He's for you. God is for you. He's for you. God is with you. God is for you. God is in you. He's in you. He's in you. He takes up abode in you. He lives amongst us. He lives in us. He's with us. There are certain things that we have to know, like Psalm 34:19. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him or her out of them all. Isn't that interesting? He didn't say that many are the afflictions of sinful people. He says many are the afflictions of the righteous. You can be righteous and get afflicted. And isn't it interesting that there are people who don't really know God that then want to judge you and say, well, if so-and-so was so righteous, why did this happen to them? But you can't judge God in a moment of time. What God is creating in your life is a mosaic. And if you only get one bird's eye view of this great dynamic of this mosaic that God is creating, you cannot judge him just by one piece of it. God is such a big God, and he has a panoramic view of what he is creating, and something that might look like a mistake over here. I've seen artists creating things, and when they first start, you can't tell what it is that they're creating. I've seen artists painting upside down, and then they flip it, and then all of a sudden you see the image. And sometimes God will let your life be like that, where it looks like it's upside down, and then he spins it, and he allows you to be able to see it. Life can only be lived forward, but it can only be understood backward. And so there are certain things that you don't even understand until God brings you into a certain position. And that's why we've got to trust that, God, you've got a better plan. Because many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Psalm 34:19. Just remember that if you're in a pickle, if you're in a bad situation, Jeremiah chapter 29:11. I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. God is saying, I have a plan for you. I have a plan for you. One of the greatest disappointments of life could be spending your whole life climbing the ladder of success only to discover that it was leaning against the wrong building. Because God says, I know the plans that I have for you. About 90% of our happiness depends on relationships, not houses, not automobiles, not jewelry. Relationships. Relationships. You'd be surprised how people would give anything for their children to act like they have some sense. Or for their spouse to finally concede that they were right. You'd be absolutely surprised. It's amazing. But there are some situations that are not a trial of your faith, but they are a trial of your trust. And so you have to just keep God in your view. Keep God in your view. God's got something up his sleeve. I like to think of it like this. Think of it as though it is a 4-act theatrical play. If you've ever been to the theater, and it's like a 4-act play. Wouldn't it be ridiculous if after the first act and when the curtains are drawn, that you then got up and left the theater, got into your automobile and drove off after the first act because the curtains closed and you assumed that it was over? I've watched people do that. Isn't it amazing that our greatest suicide rate is among young people between the ages of maybe 12, 13, 14 years old up to maybe 24, 25 years old? It's just act one. Act one, the curtains are closed. The curtains are closed. Act one. When the curtains close and you don't understand what God is doing, we think that this maybe he's finished with me. I've made a mistake now. No. The truth of the matter is your best days are ahead. The truth of the matter is that when the curtains close after the first act, he's resetting the stage and new characters are getting into position. It is his way of saying that all of the drama that just went on in this previous phase of your life, that drama is over and you will never see that drama again. And so he closes the curtain, he turns the page to say this is a new chapter, this now is Act 2. And God is a type of God who is exceeding greatness, that no matter how good it was here, that your best days are ahead. It doesn't matter whether you're in your tender teens, your teachable 20s, your tireless 30s, your forcible 40s, your fearful 50s, your seasoned 60s, your settled 70s, your aching 80s, your nebulous 90s, or your prodigious hundreds, wherever you are. God has a plan. He has a plan. He has a plan. God has a plan. So just because the curtains close, don't assume that it's over. The best is yet to come. Your best days are ahead. If I ever had a choice of God blessing me in the first half of my life or the second half, always choose the second half. You have more sense on the second half. You'll have greater wisdom to know what to do with your money on the second half. I mean, don't get a big inheritance on the first half. Get it on the second half. You'll have more fun on the second half. I'm just here to tell you, I didn't realize what a wonderful joy it was to have grandchildren. I mean, had I known grandchildren were this fun, I would have had them first. It's an incredible joy. Here's the second point, that everything is either God sent or God used. Everything that will ever happen in your life. Remember, all things, and we know. This is something that we know. It's not merely just we believe, because sometimes life will hit you so hard that your belief system just go out of the window. And when that happens, you've got to then trust what you know down in your spirit, down in your heart, what you know. And we know this is not something that you know in isolation. You become a part of that great family of witnesses, that great family of believers. These are other folks in your small group that know how to encourage you, to let you know that you don't have to do life alone. You're not designed to do life alone. I'm so glad that when Jesus taught his disciples to pray, he's taught them to pray this way, Our Father, showing that he was not selfish about it. Jesus could have said, I came down from the Father. I'm the special child. I'm the golden child. This is my daddy. But Jesus chose to share his Father and say, our fathers. This is why he is our elder brother. He's our elder brother. That means that I am your brother. I had to come here to Orange County to meet my other brothers and sisters that I'd never met in person. And I'm so glad to meet you because we share an elder brother and we have a father in common. I am your brother from another mother. But we have the same father. And you discover that everything is either God sent or God used. Even when it looks like the devil is messing with things in your life, sometimes man's rejection can become God's direction. And so man will sometimes say no, and they'll close this door and that door, and God will say that even with the rejection that happened over here and over there, God says, watch what I will do. Watch what I will do. I'll bring you into a greater opportunity. I will bless your life because now I'm going to send some great things your way. Everything is either God sent or God used. God will use everything. It's amazing how your message comes out of your mess. It is amazing how your testimony comes out of your test. I like to look at it sometimes that a testimony is a test with money. You will be surprised how many testimonies come out of a test with money. Your triumph comes out of your trial. See, even if the devil sent the trial, God can bring a triumph out of it. Even if you were a victim, out of that comes victory. You don't get victory unless you've been in a battle. And so God can use it. Even if he didn't send it, God can still use it. There is glory in every story. Never stop short of the glory. Always press through to get to the glory part. You see, death is a negative. That's why God could not leave Jesus in the grave. And that's why the power of the resurrection came. And that's why we as Christians around the globe celebrate the risen Savior every first day of the week. We celebrate him. It's victory. It is victory. It is tremendous victory, and we celebrate that. But God has purpose in everything with which you deal in your life, even if you cannot see it at the moment. Here's another thing that I want you to see is that delay has a purpose. Delay has a purpose. Some of the greatest trials that vex our soul is when things seem to be taking a long time. I mean, it just the waiting process can wear you out. There are some people that don't understand what you are going through until the element of time comes in it. You don't know the weight of something just by its actual weight. Just like, I don't know what the weight of this cup is. This may be a half a pound. But you can't measure a half a pound just by the dead weight that it is. You measure weight by time. Because if I hold this for 30 minutes, this half a pound will have my arm aching. And sometimes you're looking at somebody that's carrying something and you look at it and say, oh, that's not very much. But you don't know how long they've been carrying it. You don't know how long they've been dealing with the sickness. You don't know how long their back has been hurting. You don't know how long they've been dealing with digestive issues. You don't know how long they've been dealing with the insomnia. Sometimes just the time elements. But you see, God has a purpose even in the time delay that is in your life, because I know God. You know, there's a saying that God is never late. But I tell you this, he has missed some marvelous opportunities to show up early and surprise me. But delay has a purpose. Delay has a purpose. James chapter 1 verse 4 says, let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, wanting nothing. Let patience have its perfect work. That means that time has a function in your life. I've calculated at least 3 purposes of time. And here they are. Number one, its time is designed to educate us. It is designed to educate us. There are certain things that God doesn't want to give us until he has educated us, because if he gives it to you before he educates you, you won't value it. If he gives it to you before he educates you, you won't have wisdom in the use of it. So he has to mature us so that our perspective is properly matured, and so that our discernment is sharpened. Discernment is the mark of maturity. So God has to let time mature us. If you ask a 5-year-old what they want, you could say, you can have anything that you want. Ask that to a 5-year-old and they'll probably say that they want some candy, that they want some type of gadget, some toy. But ask a 25-year-old, son, daughter, whatever you want. I bet you they won't ask you for candy. You know why? Because time has educated them that there are some bigger, better things that you could ask for. And so they would ask for something different. Time will educate you. And just remember this, nothing ever goes away from your life until it teaches you what you need to learn. And that's why if you get in a relationship with one type of person and come out of that relationship, and then you get in another relationship and you discover this is the same type of person, it's because there's something that you need to learn. Time has to educate us. It sharpens our discernment. And when time sharpens your discernment, and after you have been with this certain kind of person before, you have this kind of thing like, I know your kind. I've seen your kind before. Once you have been abused, you can recognize an abuser. And you know, when you've been abused, you can look in the eyes of somebody else who's being abused and you understand them, because time has educated you in discernment. Time will educate you. Time, secondly, will expose. Time will expose things to you that you have not, that you can't see currently at the moment. But if you give it time, time will expose it. Time exposes a seed to see exactly what it is. If you don't know what a seed is, put it in the ground and give it time, and you shall know it by its fruit. You know, unless you are really an expert in horticulture, agriculture, you can't recognize certain things by their seed. But if you plant it, we can recognize the fruit. We will recognize the fruit because time. Let patience have her perfect work. Give it time. Here's what I like to say, is that patience is a secret weapon that forces deception to reveal itself. And there are some people that are deceivers. Give it time. Give it time. If it's not real, time will expose it. If it is truth, it will endure forever. But if it's not real, give it time. Give it time. Give it time. If it's just gold-plated, the gold will rub off. Give it time. Give it time. If it's fake, you just give it time. Give it time. Time will expose. Time not only exposes things that are wrong motives and bad character, time can also expose potential that is in your life that you didn't even realize that you had. There are certain things that you don't even know that you can do until you've got to do it. It reminds me of how an oyster receives an irritant like a grain of sand that comes into the oyster shell. And when that grain of sand enters into the oyster shell, because it is an irritant, it forces then the oyster to start secreting hormones or minerals, and the secretion of those hormones or those minerals, it actually provokes it to produce something that it would never have produced unless it were provoked through irritation. And because the irritant comes in and now it forces you to create something, those hormones, those minerals now form the pearl. And now the beauty of the pearl that then becomes a work of art around your neck or around your wrist or on your finger, it is the result of something beautiful that was created out of an irritant that entered your life. And some of you are going to have to look at your mate and thank them for sparking your creativity. But time will expose, time will educate you, time will expose. The third thing is that time will eliminate. Time will eliminate things in which you have outgrown. It has this unique ability to eliminate the things that you have outgrown. Time will eliminate out of you things that are toxic. There's some things, you know, that I know that when women particularly are notorious for this, they have things in their closet of various sizes. Now, I can wear everything that's in my closet. But now women have several different sizes, oftentimes in their closet, because they're believing that they're going to be able to get back into it. But after a certain period of time, we begin to have an elimination. You know, I realize I can't get back into the size that I was when I was 12 years old. So I've eliminated that whole wardrobe. I'm 6'2" now. I'm 210 pounds. I can't fit back into the size that I was when I was 12 years old. So time helps you to eliminate things that you have outgrown. The Apostle Paul said, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I thought as a child, I understood as a child. But when I matured, I put away, I eliminated, I discarded, I got rid of all of those childish behaviors. Now here's the deal. We're supposed to put away things that are childish, but never cease to be childlike. Because Jesus said, except you come like a little child. We're to be childlike. You know what it means to be childlike? It means that when you offend the child, that the child doesn't hold a grudge forever. Children can offend each other, hurt each other, and the one is crying, and then 5 minutes later, they're back playing again. They don't go around for 3 days not speaking. No. See, so we're not supposed to be childish, but we're supposed to be childlike. The childlike means that we eliminate those toxic emotions. We detox from anything that is negative to us, and we continue to grow. Here's point number 5. God's answer to every problem is always a person. When you go through various things in life, God uses people. I so commend you, Saddleback, for being an expression, a tangible expression of Jesus Christ in the earth. People want to know whenever there's a national disaster, where is God? God is in the people that get in that disaster and start serving through praying, through giving, through going and being hands on the ground. That's what Jesus looks like. It doesn't mean that even if you are highly favored, favor is not exemption from pain and problems. Favor means that God will come into the pain with you. He will hurt with you. He will come into the darkness with you. And listen, whenever you get into a dark place in your life, never forget what He told you when it was the light. You never forget, if you're in a dark place, the things that He told you in the light. Because everything that God speaks in the light is just as true in the darkness. And if you live long enough, it's not a matter of if you will ever experience darkness, it's a matter of when. And when you go through the darkness, He'll be right there with you. When you go through the fire, He goes with you. When you're in the water, He goes with you. The waters will not overflow you. The fire will not burn you. Listen, I'll say it this way, that God will either deliver you from the fiery furnace or He'll make you fireproof. Fireproof. But God's answer to every problem is always a person. He said in Luke 6:38, give, and it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall men give into your bosom. Notice, people. God's going to use people. He's going to use people. He didn't, because God's not a counterfeiter. He's not going to just counterfeit money if you need money. No. He says you give, and then it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall mankind, shall human beings give. Because God's answer to every problem is always a person. Remember when there was a problem with slavery in Egypt? God didn't try to get together a bunch of attorney firms so that they could draft an Emancipation Proclamation. No. He raised up a person, Moses. And He sent Moses to deal with Pharaoh. But God's answer was a person, Moses. God's answer was a person. When the walls of Jerusalem were in ruin, He didn't try to get together a bunch of construction companies. He raised up one person, Nehemiah. And Nehemiah became the visionary that spearheaded this thing to rebuild the broken down walls. And 40 days later, they had rebuilt the walls. And when he found certain disasters in the world, God raised up a person. His name was Rick Warren. God's answer to every problem is always a person. And when people are so busy always looking for the what, God raised up a person to make people start thinking about the why, the purpose. Don't just get what get married. Why do you get married? It's about the why. It's not just the purpose that you make money, but why do you make money? Why? It's understanding the why. So God's answer to every problem is always a person. If you ever think about it, the problem is always the wrong person in the wrong place at the wrong time doing the wrong thing. But God's answer is always the right person in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. Because God's answer to every problem is always a person. God's answer is always a person. I never will forget, I was down in the country of Panama, and I had just left the White House of Panama praying for the president of that nation. And they had sent a police escort, several police officers in front of my limo and several behind. And one of the police officers that was on the motorcycle behind my limo fell on this big heavy Harley Davidson. We had one of the security guys to get out and to help him to put it back up. And then we went on to the airport. When we got to the airport, we really wanted to make this guy feel good who had fallen. And we asked, which one of you fell? And in this fraternal order of police officers, they would not identify him. And they said in unison, we all fell. We all fell. And they never identified the officer who fell. I just wonder what that would look like in Christianity, because to me, that was such a Christian response, that we all fell, and they never identified their brother. They never. They said we all fell. I know some people here in the United States that if somebody fell, they would have been saying, that's... They would have identified him, but they stood in solidarity, because you're not designed to do life alone. So they said, we all fell. Because if somebody fails in a family, the whole family hurts. We all fell. We all fell. We all fell. Through one man, Adam, we all fell. We all fell. But through one man, Jesus Christ, we were all raised up. We were all empowered. We all live. And so I'm so grateful to God for that. Here's the sixth point, that it's not about what you're going through that matters. It's about what you are becoming in the process. It's not about what you're going through. It's about what you are becoming in the process. Because God is not concerned about your comfort as much as He is about your development. You know, here's the way that God works. God works in this way. God works to disturb the comfortable and then to comfort the disturbed. He's not so much concerned about what you're going through. That's not the most important thing. It's about what you are becoming in the process. We are becoming, we're on our way. It's what you are becoming out of that. So don't let things frustrate you and mess up what God is helping you to become. That's why as you celebrate recovery, it is about what you are becoming each day with a new victory under your belt. It's about what you are becoming. Now it does not yet appear what we shall become, but we know that when we shall see Him, we'll see Him as He is. We're in this state of becoming, growing, maturing, and developing more day by day, day by day. Change does not just happen overnight. It happens over time. It happens over time. And here's the seventh principle that I want you to get, is that all change begins with a decision. So even when you're going through this thing, that all things work together for the good of them who love God, all things, just remember that all change begins with a decision. When He says that all things work together, it's all of the good things and all the bad things, all the positives and all the negatives, all the ups and all the downs, in sickness and in health, in riches and in poverty. He didn't say one or, it's both and. Just think of this as a battery that has polarity. It has a positive and a negative charge, and you need both of them in order to have the energy to flow through. It is through that, all things, that they are working. When all change begins with a decision, the word decide comes from this Latin word decidere, which literally means this: to cut off. When you think about a decision, de means off, cis means to cut, shun means the state of. So decision is the state of cutting off. 33 years ago, I decided to give my virginity to one woman. She's the only woman I've ever known. It's the best I've ever had. I made a decision. I've met a lot of other fine women, beautiful women. But what keeps me is the power of a decision. It's the power of a decision. It's cutting off. Every time you make a decision, you're cutting off other options. Decision, D, off, cis, to cut, shun, the state of. Incision, the state of cutting in. Excision, the state of cutting out. Circumcision, the state of cutting around. But a decision is when you cut it off. There are decisions that we make, and it's out of our decisions that God brings us to great places in life. Just from the decision of who we are called to be. And you decide how happy you are. Your attitude is nobody else's business but yours. And if you got a bad attitude, you can't blame anybody but yourself because you chose it. And you have the power to change it. My little granddaughter, 5 years old, last year she came into the room in between my services, and she had a piece of crayon in a coloring thing, and she was coloring, and she bore down too hard, and her crayon broke, and she started crying. And she calls me G-Daddy, so G-Daddy gets up to come to make everything better. And I come around and I share with her. I said, here's your cousin over here. She didn't have a piece of crayon at all. I said, now that your crayon is broken, now you have something to share. You have nothing to share until you're first broken. God uses broken people to start sharing. And I thought my bringing this great profundity to her would stop her from crying, but it didn't. She was still crying, and so I had to search for something. I said, Lord, help me to help her. And no sooner than I said those words, these words flowed out of my spirit. Broken crayons still color. And I took the piece of broken crayon, and I showed her that it still colors. It has just as much efficacy as when it was whole. It has the ability to still create the work of art that you were working on. And even though you've been broken crayons still color. There's something, if you've been celebrating recovery, and you might have been broken and gone through alcoholism, addiction to pornography, dealing with drugs, broken crayons still color. There's something in living color that God still wants you to be able to create. And the great news of the gospel is broken crayons still color, because all things work together for the good of them that love God. Let me pray for you. Father, we thank you so much for the goodness of your glory. Thank you for trusting us with your Spirit. Thank you for even trusting us with failure. Thank you, God, for trusting us with pain. We come to know you in deeper measures, in different degrees, when we go through things that we don't even understand. Thank you for deepening our trust in you and helping us to become all that we are not. God, we thank you that all is well in the end. And if all is not well, it's not the end. We thank you for being our rock of Gibraltar, for being our strength, our Redeemer, the lifter of our head and the giver of every good and perfect gift. I thank you, God, for my brothers and sisters even now, that you, God, out of their brokenness, have now given them something with which to share with others who are hurting, who are broken themselves, and that we can still color, and that all things will work together for our good in the glorious, matchless, and majestic name of Jesus. Amen. God bless you. I love you.
Thanks for checking out this week's message on YouTube. We would love to get you connected with our online community. There's 3 easy ways to get you involved. First, learn about belonging to our church family by taking Class 101 online. Second, you can join an online small group or a local home group in your area. And third, check out our Facebook group to engage with our online community throughout the week. To take these next steps, visit saddleback.com/online or shoot me an email at online@saddleback.com. I hope to hear from you soon.